Join me as we explore how to add a little bit of depth and dimension into our die cuts. For today's card, I'm using the Lovely Layers Poinsettia dies, the St. Nick's stamp set, and the die. I'm only using that for the sentiment. I have already pre-cut all my pieces for my Lovely Layers, and I'm coming in with some Copic markers. I'm using R89, R59, and R29 for my to add my depth and dimension to my die cuts. So I'm coming in with the darkest color. I've laid that first layer on top of the bottom layer. That way I can trace out where these overlap. And if you do have problems trying to figure it out, there is a layering guide on the Honeybee Stamps website. That's where I downloaded it. So I just downloaded that and I went by the layering guide to figure out what goes where. And I did, even with the layering guides, I had issues that it took me a second to figure out. I just cut it out from the video. And I am making 2 of these today, but I'm only showing you adding the dimension for the one. That way we will not be here all day. So I'm just blending out each of those colors on each of the layers. I'm using the same colors on all the layers. Besides the last layer, I chose to use something different to add a little dimension to it, and as also for the leaves. And then I will go into how we make the card, so if you stick out to the end. All right, so I'm just I decided it was best to go ahead and layer everything up as I was coloring. That way I wouldn't have to go back and put it all together again. It was crazy. So I don't know why I didn't think of that to begin with, but I didn't. And I just cut these out from different, from the Jolly paper pad, I believe, from scrapbook.com is what I used. So that's what I used. I believe that's what I used. It was either Jolly or the other one, the new one. No, it was Jolly. I think it was the Jolly smooth paper pad. Anyway, so I'm just tracing around with the darkest color. You could use the lightest, and that's what I should have done to begin with. But I did not. I just went in whole hog and jumped right into it. So I don't know why. I should have went with the lightest and mapped it out, but I didn't. Oh well, it is what it is. But it's okay if you leave a little bit of the color cardstock showing. That's what it's for. It makes it, just adds that little bit of more depth and dimension to your project. And I have some other ways I'm going to add some depth and dimension also at the end when I finish the card. So there's that. I'm just layering all the pieces together. Now I'm going to come in with some Lumberjack Plaid Distress Oxide ink on the smallest layer. And I also added a little mustard seed to the centers of the poinsettias. And then a little bit to the tip of the leaves. And then I added Rustic Wilderness to the bottom of the leaves. And I should have added, to get a little bit more depth, I should have, if I was going to do the Oxide ink, I should have went with a blue, since that paper was green. That way it would have given it a little bit more dimension, or used a blue Distress ink instead. But I didn't. So I'm just finishing up layering these pieces. And my poinsettias, I love poinsettias. They're like my favorite Christmas flower. That is one of my favorite flowers, and then sunflowers for the fall. And I know technically they are not technically fall flowers, but they're pretty. I like them. All right, so I have cut a arch out of a piece of Hammer Mill smooth cardstock, and I've put it on my card base to get the placement. And then I'm going to add that interior back in. And I'm coming in with some Ice Spruce Distress Oxide ink to ink blend over this panel. We're also going to be adding a little bit more texture to this as well in just a second. But I'm just creating that gradient in there. For some reason, my shaded spruce always looks gray. It's not that bluey color that most people is. Maybe I got a bad pad. I don't know. Anyway, it has a subtle hint of a blue to it, but not what I see everywhere else. All right, so I picked one of the sentiments from the St. Nick stamp set, and I am coming in and I'm first and second generation stamping that tone on tone with the same ice spruce ink, and just filling that background up with just a little bit of texture. The sentiment is going to act as a texture. It's not the sentiment I'm going to use on my card. I just wanted it for a little bit of extra background texture. So I've come in with some foam tape. This is the Thermoweb iCraft foam tape, something like that. I have it listed below, along with, and if it's not listed here, it will be in the visual supply list and over on the coordinating blog post. But I'm just putting that all the way around the four sides. You could easily turn this into a shaker. And I did actually think about it after I got the foam tape on here. I was like, I could add acetate to this and make this into a shaker card on the front. But Rick did not have any window sheets, so I don't know where those are. And speaking of which, Rick is in the middle of cleaning up the studio. I have ignored it for a long time, and I have spent the last few days getting everything cleaned up, or trying to, and I'm rearranging everything because the situation I had was just not working. So I'll try to do a video of that when I get done with it. It's still a long way to go, but I'm getting there. It's tiresome and backbreaking. I'll tell you, I've worked all day trying to move everything around and clean up, and overwhelming. Yeah, I got overwhelmed. I had to take a break. But I came back and worked on it some more, and it's gradually getting there. I'll show y'all in a video soon. Probably closer to the new year. All right, so I'm coming in, added some foam tape on the edges that are going to hang into the opening. And I'm going to tuck my leaves in. I know that's not what they're called. Into the back. I'm going to go ahead and attach those in one side, and then go ahead and add liquid glue on the back of this so I can attach it to the front of my card. And I do need that little bit of foam tape there because we did pop that center up, our card front up. So that center is just flat to the card, so it has to have the extra dimension on the poinsettia in those spots so that it will stay nice and level. Y'all all know what I'm talking about, even though Rick seems to not know what the hell he's talking about today. All right, we're going to add our next leaf for this poinsettia. And then I'm going to work on the bottom one after I get that kind of arranged where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and peel off those backings for this one. And I will go ahead and pop that on, adding a little liquid glue behind there. And we are going to be cooking with grease. Have y'all asked Santa for what you're going to get for Christmas? I did, and actually, he supposedly did really well. And Charles, y'all know I've told y'all before, Charles does not buy, unless I tell him what I want, he does not buy stuff. He surprised me and told me he had bought stocking stuffers for me. So I had to go and order him some more stuff for his stocking stuffers. And with the way the mail's going right now, I hope they're here by Christmas. I mean, I ordered them. They're supposed to be here Wednesday, but we'll see. Everything I've ordered so far that was supposed to be here by Wednesday on the Black Friday sales and other sales have not made it when they said they were going to. All right, I'm adding some Wink Estella Clear Shimmer pen to my poinsettia and the leaves. But because I did use that Oxide ink, I do have to be careful because that does lift up. So you saw me go off the camera right there, and what I did was I brushed it off on a scrap piece of paper to get that color off. And I had to do the same thing for the red. But the top one, Rick forgot to do that, and we get a little red into our little berries. And actually, I liked the way it looked. It was actually pretty good. So you see that touch of that red shadow in there? Now, on the finished card, you're going to see a different color sentiment. Rick made a mistake, just like everybody else. I make mistakes too. Well, I've prepped my cardstock with my anti-static powder, the Cottontail blending brush. I'm stamping this down in white pigment ink. And I'm going to cover it with some white detail embossing powder. Well, Rick's using a thinner cardstock than what he normally would use because it matched our card. And it was a scrap, and I wanted to use that up. And you can't see it on camera, but I actually scorched my white embossing powder because I overheated it. So I have redone that off screen. And I'm coming in now with my Milky Pop white gel pen and adding some white highlights to add that extra dimension to our flowers. And now you're going to see me add a little bit more. I'm coming in with some tarnish. I think this is tarnished brass and the picket fence distress sprays. I think it's what they are. And I've been looking for these forever, or wanting them forever, and haven't ordered them. So I finally ordered them. So I'm just going to flick those on, just flick a little bit on, make it look like a little snow and a little glisten. I even did it over the over the flowers. It's okay. Now I'm going to decide where I'm going to want my sentiment that says "Have a Holly Jolly Christmas," and you can see where I have changed it to the red background instead of the green because I didn't have any more green that would work. All right, I'm cutting some little foam squares in half and popping them behind the parts of the sentiment that is going to not be attached to the poinsettias or the edge of the card. That way it's all nice and level. So we're just going to go ahead and add this on there. And then we're going to add a little bit more. Yes, we are. I cannot leave well enough alone. So I came in with some twinkle rhinestones from Trinity Stamps. And I'm popping those on. Just going through and adding few. Added 3. Started out by adding 3 at below the sentiment, 2 at the top. Well, I couldn't leave that alone either. I had to add some more. Basically, I was being lazy and didn't want to put them back and open the bag and put them back up. It's really what it boiled down to. But if you got a little bling, it's a Christmas card, by gosh. You could have more bling there. So don't be afraid of that. So I've added a few more, and I swear to God, I'm going to stop, y'all. I swear I'm going to quit adding to it. I probably should have stopped a long time ago. But Charles said it looked really pretty. I mean, of course he's going to say that because it's over the top, blingish, and he loves that kind of stuff. But once I added a few more, it was all over. Okay, there's a look at the card, and I will see you guys in this video coming up next.